Awesome. Well, we are going to go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. I'm Wendy Zadeb, MASSP's Executive Director, and I'm happy to bring you today's webinar, which is very timely about dual enrollment. I was speaking with Jeff McNeil from MDE, who has supervision over dual enrollment, and he reminded me of this statutory requirement and the timelines that go with it. And thinking about the fact that we have so many new administrators taking over building principalships, I thought, this is probably a good idea just to remind people of this requirement, but then also to find some principals who are doing great work with dual enrollment and just kind of have them share with everybody, how that's going, how they've increased dual enrollment and the benefits that it's bringing to their school community. So we've got two things happening with us today. So I'm going to just start by introducing our panel. Please know that we are recording this webinar, so we will send everybody who's registered the link to the recording, as well as the slides that Jeff's going to share with us today. And as we get going, I just want to make sure that everybody knows this is Colin Rittmaster, MASSP's Deputy Executive Director. We have Jeff McNeil from MDE with us. And no, he's not, in some salt mine somewhere. That is a DNR kind of replica behind him. And then we also have three awesome principals with us today. We have Jason Schrock, who is a board member for MASSP. He's the principal at Howell High School. We have Scott Kapla. He's the principal at Lakeshore High School. He was once an MASSP board member. And then we have brand new first-year principal, fresh out of Meridian High School, Scott Lefevre. Woo! So
Wendy, just one correction, Lakeview.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lakeview. Gosh,
Yeah, Lakeview.
Thank you for that correction.
St. Clair Shores. There's like 3 or 4 Lakeviews.
You're right. You're right. But we all know Lakeview is probably the best of those,
okay.
right?
So
here we are. All right. Okay, so we're going to get started with Jeff, who is just really going to share with us what those statutory requirements are. And Jeff isn't going to take questions live with us today, but if you would, in the Q&A, if you have any questions about the dual enrollment legislative requirements that Jeff is sharing, drop those in the Q&A. We're going to grab those, and Jeff will take those back to the team at MDE and put together an FAQ to go with that. Some of your questions might kind of delve into other areas, that aren't under Jeff's direct supervision, but we want to make sure that we're able to grab those and to be able to get you answers to your questions. So we're going to kick right off with Jeff. Thanks for being with us today. Jeff, if you're speaking, we are not hearing you.
Yeah, I forgot about that mute button.
Okay, great. You're good now. Thank you.
It gets noisy down here in the mine, so I try to block out that background. And but good morning, everyone, and thank you, MASSP, for this opportunity to bring this out to your membership and to help them with anything around dual enrollment. I'm not really great at this. I'm just kind of like the warm-up band when it comes to dual enrollment. The real rock stars of this are the guests from the school districts, because they're playing this tune every day in their districts. So I'm just going to set the stage for them, kind of give them the instruments that they use, and we'll go from there. So when we look at dual enrollment, there are several ways for a district can do that. When we think of ways for college credit, we have dual enrollment, early middle college, articulated credits, direct or concurrent enrollment. I'm just here today to talk about dual enrollment. We do have those other programs. I can help you with those, but we do have early middle college that is done by the CTE unit. So when we look at these, there's the department concern is around goal number 4 in our top 10 strategic education plan, and that's to expand secondary learning and opportunities for everyone. So today I'm going to focus on the upcoming requirements that districts have under the Post-Secondary Education Act. We do have another act that is important in this. That's the Career and Technical Preparation Act. They're very similar, but there are some unique differences between post-secondary and career and technical. One of them being that early middle college programs are covered more under the Career and Technical Preparation Act than dual enrollment. So if you've got that early middle college program that you've got in your district, or you're thinking about an early college program, reach out to me and I can get you in touch with Lisa and Stacy to help you get that application in. The important thing about the Post-Secondary Enrollment Option Act and dual enrollment is that students drive this program. It is really centered around them. To frame the presentation today, we're going to have two primary. Oh, you got that going again. Both acts focus on. Where am I at? Oh, sorry, got lost there. These acts focus for the students and are what we have going on. The first deadline that we're going to look at today is the one that's by March 1st, that each and every school has to provide a district approved or what their Dual Enrollment Options Act is about. So each school has to do this. They have to notify the district, or the district has to notify all of the students. What that is, it's required of all public and non-public schools. So it's PSAs, LEAs, ISDs. If they have the program with them, it has to come out. This should be a formal document or letter that goes to the students. I would also recommend that you don't bury it in a bunch of other information, that you include it in your, as a page in your student handbook, that you have it in a newsletter. Use multiple methods to get out how your dual enrollment program works, because we all know this day and age, parents don't look at everything that you send home. They're going to need the emails, they're going to need the newsletters, sending that stuff up for parents to learn about your program. The next we're going to talk that we have is the principal's eligibility letter. This is also something that needs to be sent out. Districts are required to provide this letter, and it outlines the student's eligibility and the responsibilities of the student as well. This is a short paragraph that, well, this is the laws. What I've tried to do in the next couple of slides that we see is to highlight those key points, because I know in this day and age, we're all pressed for time. So I just wanted to make sure that that was easier for you when you go to review these slides, that you have something that really pulls out some of the eligibility and importance under these two acts.
So Jeff, you talked about how the best case or best practice is including like that sample letter that you had linked in the slide deck that we will send out to our members, participants after this, that has a sample letter. You mentioned that another best practice is putting it into multiple different venues. We know that there's best practice and there's common practice. So if a school has this letter or some variation of notifying around dual enrollment in their handbooks or in their curriculum guides or as part of their scheduling process, or or posted on their website, does that fulfill the legislative requirements? The compliance part, even if it's not a best practice?
I think it would, Colin, it would satisfy the compliance part. And the best practice, like you said, it is to have it in multiple spots. But if that's posted, somehow that you release that, I'm thinking of the new technology we have. Districts have ways to send that information out in news blasts and that type of stuff. It would be, and I'm thinking, yes, you send it out. Please refer to this. Here's our policy statement. Anybody interested in talking about dual enrollment, here's the steps you have to take.
So then principal eligibility letter
Yep.
is really more targeting any student who qualifies and letting them know that they're eligible. Is that, or can you explain a little bit more about what that means?
Okay, so the difference between the first one that has to go out March 1st is that goes to everybody, whether they're eligible or not. So your 8th graders moving to 9th grade, 9th through 12th grade. I'm going to be honest, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me to send to seniors because it's a little too late in March for them to have this on their winter schedule. The law says we have to do it, but you know, it's a little late for a senior to get this notice March 1st. When we talk about this principal's letter, this is a little different. And thanks, Colin. I do have on our website, if I was a little more savvy on how to pull that up, I'd throw it up on the screen. But I do have a principal's letter that is directly to the student that is participating in dual enrollment. That does not go to everybody because they're going to be unique to the student. In this letter, we talk about the things that you have to do. Bear with me just a minute. Let me see if I got that. No, this calculation worksheet. Hold on.
We can link that in our after
Yeah.
as well. So I'll get that from you, Jeff. But I think that's a piece that sometimes people get confused about, that the principal's eligibility letter versus the notification letter. So thanks for clarifying that. The notification is letting any student in 8th through 12th grade or all students in 8th through 12th grade know about dual enrollment opportunities. Whatever method you do, there's best practices minimum. There has to be at least one thing you can point to put that out there. The second piece then is once a student is going to proceed with dual enrollment, there's a second letter to that targeted group that specifies the school's obligations, responsibilities, and the student's obligations and responsibilities, and will provide links to sample letters for that.
Yes, and thanks, Colin, for helping me out. When we look at that letter, it is a written notice, and it's going to indicate the courses, when the enrollment is, any tuitions and fees. The important thing that I see in this letter is this is basically the contract between the district, the student, and the post-secondary institution. It's going to include things that, is the student taking this only for college credit? Are they taking it for college and high school credit? Since they get to pick the university, is there going to be extra charges that the family is going to be responsible for? It basically outlines everything in there that if a student should appeal what's going on with their dual enrollment, the first thing I'm going to do is ask for a copy of the principal's letter. That spells out things that will help not only the district avoid problems, but also with the students. So as I had a call this morning, a student was a little disappointed because their GPA was going to be affected by their lower grade in their college course. Well, when we look at the principal letter, that was a decision you made at the beginning of the course. It's not something you can do later, you know. So that helps. And in that letter also, whenever there's some financial obligations that the parent says they were not aware of, I can look at the principal letter and we can say, you knew that you were responsible for these. The form that Colin's talking about, I do have as a mail merge to make it easier for the districts. So when we're looking at this eligible student letter, we have the recommendation student letter. It's on the letterhead, the name, the post-secondary institution, what courses they're eligible for, so that there's no confusion whether that class is a hobby, craft, something that is not eligible. It has the principal's signature on it, and then it will have the amount the district will pay. That's optional. I did include a link in the website. We won't get into that today, But the dual enrollment calculation sheet is something that I like to have in the letter, because then the parent knows exactly what those costs are, and it's not something that the district made up. That is linked in legislation, so that I included that in the slide. Oh, by the way, that does change every year, but that's webinar number 2. We do have course limits. So I bring this up now because there are course limits, so that a freshman can't come in and say, hey, I want to take all 5 classes at the college this year, you know, and I'm ready to go. They are limited. The max is 10 courses that a student can ask for. The district can always go more, but then the student can't demand more than 10. So the breakdowns in front of us, that is kind of important as you're counseling and to know where you're standing for students. And so you can see they basically add up to that 10 classes, unless they start their junior or senior year, then there's some other ramifications there. There is one exception, and when we get into this, that a 5th year, if you do have a student that's in their 5th year, there are a carve out in the law for specifically for students that have a large amount of trauma or ACEs, medical, or are foster youth. There are some exceptions to that, but basically they only have 4 years to get those 10 courses in.
In addition to that, Jeff, if we go back to that course selection piece and the course limits. So one thing is around how many they can take, knowing a district may permit more than that if they elect to.
Yes.
But at minimum, they have to be able to provide up to this for eligible students. From
Right.
a payment point of view, is it accurate to say that a district is responsible for up to the proportion of FTE that they receive for that student? So if I'm on a 6-period day, and so over the course of the year, I have 12 slots in my semester-based schedule. If I were to say that they're dual enrolling for one of those spots one semester, they can pay up to, including 1/12 of the FTE towards their credit. So if I'm at a community college, I may be able to then cover everything, but at some 4-year colleges or private schools, there's going to be a larger proportion on the student and the family. So can you speak to that with this calculator?
Yes, so with the calculator, the district is only, like you said, there is a minimum that they have to provide. Now, the district can provide more if they'd like, but they do not have to. So the calculation sheet will work for any amount of classes, and this is why I think it's very parent friendly, is you go into the calculation sheet, you would pick if you're on semesters or trimesters. Now, when we get into how many high school classes per term, like you were saying, Colin, it's usually 6 in a semester. How many courses are these going to be replaced for at the college? If we said 1, hit our enter button, it's going to calculate that maximum amount that the district is responsible for, and that is $725. If the student is going to take 2 classes in a semester, it works out well, and then they're up to $1,450. That is the maximum that the district has to provide. Now, one of the things I like to point out is that does not mean that parents get a refund. So if the course only costs $400 or $500, they do not get that money back as a refund. The other thing is that I will bring up. No, I guess I won't. Oh, there it comes. Is a copy of the principal's letter. Is that large enough for the audience? Jason or Colin, is that readable?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So the important things in that this principal's letter is the student UIC number. And then it's very basic, the college course name, credits. We just roll those in there, how much the district is going to be responsible for. When we talk about other eligible charges, this is if the student has not reached that capped amount, they can charge tuitions, books, lab fees, that type of thing. We're not buying activity tickets though, so they're going to have to figure out how to get to the basketball and football games on their own. We do have a total amount that they're there. The thing is that this gets us into that verification of what they're responsible for. That I think is kind of what you're looking for in there, is that this one is also important to me because that allows you to meet any membership or transcript issues that you have with the college, because they're acknowledging that as well. This is another one that's important, is because this is where the student declares whether they're having that credit issued as far as on their high school transcript or not. I know I jumped back a little bit, but when I'm presenting, I can't see what's going on with the audience. So, Wendy, is there anything else, or for our panelists, there are things that I may have missed that are important?
I think when you talk about sorry, Wendy.
No, go ahead.
When you talk about the associated cost, so there's the actual per credit cost, and depending on where you go, there may be books and textbooks and parking fees and registration fees, enrollment fees, application fees. So if you can clarify what out of the $725 or whatever your proportion is, if you're on a trimester or a 7-period day, revisit what is covered up to that maximum amount.
So when we look at that, and this is the section of the law that applies, is of course we've got the tuition and fees, textbooks and materials. When it says other related charges, that's when we talk about the things of if a student is in a chemistry lab or other materials are needed for that lab, those costs can be included into that rate. The thing that I'd like to remind districts, and this is more important for the students, is that those are now considered district materials. So if a district should buy the books or buys materials for that course, they are district property and need to be treated as such. So if we've got a course that requires, tools or specialty equipment, that would be returned to the district just as anything else would, so that the district could reissue those to a student that was taking the class. My hint lately has been that a lot of programs are now doing book rentals, and you can get those, and so that the student gets access to that either digitally or through the bookstore. Then you do not have that problem of getting them returned. They have them leased for a certain amount of period through the university or the community college, and then they get returned. So that alleviates that problem. You did mention parking. Parking is not covered, nor is transportation. That is not covered under dual enrollment. The school can provide it if they would like, but they do not have to. We do have several districts that will provide transportation, say 2 times a day, that they're running to the local community college because it's only, maybe 8 miles down the road. And so they provide transportation at the beginning or end of the day using their existing bus routes. So I have seen that, but it is not required under Section 4.
So with that piece around the eligibility and going back to the costs then, a question came up where if the district gives 2 high school credits, so even though it's a 3 credit, 4 credit, 5 credit class at the college level, and a district says that's 2 high school parts, we would leave, even though it's only 1 college class, if you determine it's 2 slots in your schedule, you would leave the 2 there and pay at the 2 course level, correct?
Yes, because you're saying the college course is taking the place of 2 high school courses. You're looking at the proficiency required of that college course. And I guess my best example is if we looked at a chemistry or physics class, they're usually 4 to 6 credits that you may say, you know, there's so much content in that class that we're going to give them credit for 2 units of our physics.
Particularly when it's not only the coursework, but the lab work. It would be similar to what you might do for a student who goes to a pure technical education center. In
Yep.
some districts or ISDs, it might be a 2 credit because it's a 2-hour course, and another it might be a 3-hour, but as a local school, you determine how many credits that is. And the law is very clear that districts determine high school credit and awards that credit. So that falls under that. A second question came up is the district allowed to decide how many hours of release time, if any, the student has on their schedule for the dual enrollment? Is the district allowed to decide whether or not the course counts as a high school credit? So to the first question, let's say because of travel time, it's at the end of the school day. So even though the course is maybe at 5 o'clock at night, we're going to say it's during 6th hour, then it would count as that 6th hour class. If you're saying the class starts at 3 o'clock, and you're letting them out of 6th hour to get there and 5th hour, how might you calculate that? And I think the answer is how many credits are you allowing that student will determine the cost. Is that accurate?
I got to break this into 2 parts because one does not have to, one is how we're looking at pupil membership, and the other is the cost of dual enrollment. So with pupil membership, or the cost of enrollment is going to run like the calculation sheet I have up. If you're counting it for 1 course or 2 courses, or their schedule has 3, the money is dictated by that because you're saying that this is replacing courses on their schedule. When
So
we
the
look at the
FTE, if you're factoring in, so just as an example to take that a little bit further, Jeff, is if you're saying it's counting for 3 classes or 2 classes, but we're excusing you from 3, then your FT is going to be based on 1 less class because 1 class is a non-filled section for travel.
there is a way to do that. You would have, that's going to take just a little bit more work because you can include travel time as part of that in membership, and it has to be reasonable travel time. So there is a way to work that out with your auditor for that reasonable travel time. The other way that you
Point
can
is
do
2 things: membership versus the reimbursement calculator. So
correct.
reimbursement calculator is always going to be based on how many high school credits that equates to.
Correct.
Other is pupil accounting membership, which you're saying has some flexibility for reasonable travel time that would be calculated differently.
The other thing that you can do is that if at parent request, if travel does become an issue, is that you can do a less than full-time class. And this is where, like Wendy was saying, not my forte. I just know that it exists, but you can reduce a student's schedule and have less than class if they're doing this. So if they're typically, say, a 6 credit or 6 units a day, you can reduce that by 5. And then, of course, in our example with the calculation, that would be taking the place of 2 of that 5. One of them you're doing for less than class for travel time. Very similar to what you would do with a CTE program.
Shifting gears a little bit. Can you clarify who's the audience for the principal letter? Is it any student who qualifies in the sense of their test scores, course taking patterns, or is it any student who elects that's eligible for dual enrollment that need to receive this letter? So is it a prior to scheduling, or is it one during the scheduling or after that gets the principal letter?
The principal letter would be part of their enrollment process of being in dual enrollment. You
So
would
once
not
the
need to
counselor
do this
with the
ahead of time.
teacher, the counselor with the student or parents decide, yes, dual enrollment's the way to go, they need to get provided a letter.
Yes.
All right. Second question.
When we go back to that, March 1st is your blanket. Sorry, too far. When we're looking at this March 1st, it's just
It's
telling
everybody.
them, it's everybody. It says we offer our dual enrollment program at our district is can be found here. All students in 9th through 12th grade are eligible. And
Yeah.
we can't talk, we don't have time today if our panel wants to talk about it, but in our next session, we'll spend some time talking about eligibility of students and eligibility of courses and how that qualifies the student, because that does get a little tricky. So I'd rather give that a little bit more time than.
But as far as timing of the letters, this letter by March 1st, everyone, 8th through 12th. Sometime in the spring or summer, students who are enrolling in dual enrollment, once you need to get this letter so they know what courses they can elect, and oftentimes that's co-developed with the counselor, and then how much of that's going to be covered. So that's a in process or as you're transitioning into the following year. The next part of that is, can you clarify around whether or not the dual enrollment course has to be high school and college credit, or can a district determine it's only for one or the other?
Unfortunately, that's not the district's ability. That's the student gets to decide. The student decides whether it's for high school, whether they're going to have high school credit. The thing that's a nuance about that is that there's no avoiding that it's going to be for college credit. That's covered in other statutes. Basically, once you enroll at a college, the higher ed doesn't follow that, doesn't fall under that part of Post-Secondary Options Act, and your college transcript will start. But it is the student's choice whether that'll be on their high school transcript. I'm going to build on that just a little bit because I want to give the panel some time, but you're kind of alluding to this earlier, Colin. It is the district that decides proficiency. So it's the district that decides credit, and the district is also going to decide how that is reflected on that student's transcript, whether they're going to count that as an honors class, whether they're going to count that as a regular course in their GPA. That is all the decisions of the district, and probably something we'll talk about in the future of how that should be handled through some policy or protocol statements in the handbook.
And then just to clarify again to Leslie's question, yes, you do have to reimburse for electronic materials or rentals, as long as it doesn't exceed the per pupil allotment that's calculated there.
Yeah.
So with that, and see, I think we've addressed the questions in the chat. Oh, another question just came in. Does the student have to make the choice before they begin the course? And I believe you said the answer is yes.
You bet.
Everything's on the front end. That was one when I was a principal where all of a sudden they get into the course and now all of a sudden it's going to affect their GPA and all of a sudden, well, I don't want it to count. Nope, it's already been decided. This is where it is. And so that's something you can refer back to, and just part of your principal eligibility letter spells that out. So with that, thank you, Jeff, for taking time to kind of walk us, not just kind of, for walking us through those pieces, as well as sharing the 3 tools from the notification letter template that everyone will receive, the principal letter that everybody will receive, and this calculator, which I think is a really nice little piece that some districts have actually embedded in their websites under dual enrollment through that hyperlink in order for parents to be able to see. And that way it's not you as a principal or a counselor arguing with parents about, well, why aren't you paying for all of this or not? I want to go to K College and not KVCC. Well, KVCC has this course for $150 a credit versus here. So you make a choice, but you're going to have to cover this difference. So Those are important decision points that everybody should be transparent about on the front end so that there are no surprises. So thank you, Jeff, for making time to share that information with us and clarify some of those legislative piece. As we shift towards our panel, I thought it might be nice to have Jason, sorry, I was slurring with my schrock. Jason, Scott Lefevre, and Scott Kapla share a little bit about their schools. And let's start with maybe, if you tell us about your school, maybe where you're located, because we tried to take schools from different demographics and sizes. So what school you're from, and the size of your school, and what you're doing to notify, or how you're approaching that practice of notifying students, since that's where Jeff started. So what if we start with, we'll start to our far east over in St. Clair Shores with Scott Kapla. We'll move over to Scott Lefevre and then to Jason to share. So Scott, tell us a little bit about your school and your approach to notifying and communicating with students about dual enrollment.
Thanks, Colin. Appreciate it. Good morning, everybody. Happy to be here. Again, my name's Scott Kapla. I've been at Lakeview High School in St. Clair Shores. This is my 16th year as an administrator. We have roughly about 1,450 students in the building. And out of that 1,450, about 13%, 200 or so, take dual enrollment classes. So back to Colin's other question, my counseling staff, I have 4 counselors, one of which is totally dedicated to dual enrollment and CTE. And we do the letter, as Jeff stated at the beginning of the year. We do have set parameters other than what MDE requires as to what we require for a student that we would feel would be most successful in a dual enrollment class. So I can give you more stats, but I'll let the others go. We've been doing dual enrollment since 2000, I want to say 12, 13.
And numbers have grown over that time, I think.
Absolutely.
Scott Lefevre, you're over at Meridian, and you have both this early middle college plus other dual enrollment options. So maybe tell us a little bit about Meridian and your school and how you're approaching these opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. So yeah, I'm the principal at Meridian Early College High School here in Sanford, Michigan. We're in Midland County, so we are just to the outskirts of a very rural district, 1,400 students district-wide. Our enrollment at the high school is slightly down a little bit this year. We're at 360, but we typically hover around 400 students, 100 students per class. So it makes for easy math when we're talking about dual enrollment statistics here today. Very similar structures to what Scott was saying as far as our dual enrollment entry criteria and the way we market the program. We additionally have been doing this since 2012. It's become a part of our culture. Our students are aware that this is an option, and we send a lot of students. We typically send around 25 to 30 juniors who are eligible, meeting the enrollment criteria, and then increases within the senior year where we send about 40 to 50 students. And we have a model here where all students enter as early college high school students, and they have to elect out of the program if they choose to graduate within 4 years. And we generally have 40 to 50% of our audience elect to stay with us for the 5th year option at Delta College. So yeah, as I said, similar structure to Scott. My dean of student support, so her office is right next to me, is totally dedicated to off-campus scheduling, CTE, and dual enrollment. In addition to sending the letter out, it's pretty customary in the next couple of weeks that we'll have a next options meeting for all parents, talking about the qualifications for dual enrollment, qualifications for CTE programming, and other options for junior and senior year.
Thank you, Scott. Jason, talk to us a little bit about Howell High School. You're the largest of our schools with us today. And
thanks, Colin. We have just over 2,000 students in the district or in the high school. Howell's located on the 96 corridor between Lansing and Detroit. We don't have a community college in Livingston County, but we have a lot of great partners, and we have some satellite campuses within the county that's been very helpful over the years. When I first became principal about 10 years ago, we averaged about 13 to 18 students per semester taking dual enrollment opportunities, and we've grown that to about 70 to 80 per semester. One of the big things that we have done that has made the biggest impact is about communication. Not just the notice and the letter home, the emails, but we've hosted dual enrollment nights, invited as many college partners as we could find that would be interested in, and our school counselors host kind of a workshop model for our parents. We give them in one general setting the overview of what it looks like and the process, the why behind it, just to save a lot of money as you go on after high school, to get them out of the building. Quite honestly, I think it's valuable for juniors and seniors to start experiencing little doses at a time, getting out of the high school setting and being independent. So having all of our partners come for a dual enrollment evening and then workshop model where they can hear from the different colleges and then meet with their school counselors. So we've done that with great success, and that's really helped just promote in our community that dual enrollment is a fantastic option to start earning that high school or the college credit while they're in high school. And all of our counselors, we have 6 that work with our 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, 1 that works with our 9th graders. So about the equivalent of 300 or 400 students each, and they just work with their caseload on that process. And I put in the chat, I don't think it went to everybody, but I think we're pretty proud of the paperwork part of things that we offer. And if anyone wanted to check out what we have, howellschools.com on the high school tab, there's the notice and all of the formula and the agreements that we have with our parents and students that we've put in place, and that transparency has been really helpful.
Jason, you talked about some of the benefits that you share through those nights, and obviously both Scotts talked about having ways that they're communicating that. And so as you think about the benefits that you want to make sure students know, or what are some of the barriers that you've had to address? So if you want to, maybe we'll start with Jason. What are some of the benefits or barriers that you've experienced as you've grown the program? And if it is a barrier, what you've done to try to address that? And so we'll go from Jason back to Scott Kaplan and then to Scott Lefevre.
Yeah. Well, the benefits, I think all of us will probably have similar stories. The benefits is getting a step ahead in college. And, it's no secret how expensive post-secondary education is. So to share with families that we can partner with you and burden some of that while they're still in school has been tremendously beneficial, and getting parents on board with this is a good decision for my student, and getting them ready for their college career. That's been a huge benefit, just the financial aspect. But equally, I think the independence of students being part of an in-person college class or navigating the college world on their own while they still have a lot of support here has been beneficial. Some of the barriers have actually started to come down. The colleges have more online offerings these days than ever before. So for a school like us that does not have within driving distance access to a community college or university, being able to take those classes online has been very beneficial for our students to be able to schedule that, to navigate online learning on their own. And I do think some of the other barriers, quite honestly, there's some high school kids that they want to be part of that high school experience, and they haven't been willing to quite give up being in the building all the time. And we just want to reassure them that they're still part of the school community, but it's really good to get yourself ready. And even 1 or 2 classes your senior year could be helpful.
But over at Lakeview.
So yeah, just kind of echoing what Jason was talking about, the benefits obviously is paying for those college credits. We have stories every year where we have seniors entering college as a sophomore, and they're doing great work there. And it's like Jason alluded to, when I go over the presentation in our open house meetings or what have you with the community, that's one point that hits home. We are school of choice, so it's all about attracting new students. And when parents hear that they can get a jump start on college through dual enrollment, they get pretty excited, obviously. The benefits another benefit is we have all of them in-house for the most part. We have partnerships with Wayne State University, Macomb Community College, and Baker, and they come to us, which is great because that's really a relief to a parent. As a parent of a 17-year-old, and I'd feel a little weary of her driving every day to college. So we bring them here, which has helped out tremendously. And the drawback, the one thing that we've seen over the years, not so much with Macomb and not so much with Baker, but universities can raise their tuition whenever they want, however they want, by a percentage or two. And so at one point, our numbers were really high with Wayne State University. And over the years, they've kept increasing tuition. And so there was a point where we could pay for an entire 3-credit class with Wayne State. That's not the case anymore. So some of that money does come out of the parent's pocket. Macomb and Baker are different. We can fit those bills, but I would say that's the biggest drawback up to this point.
So Scott, you said that one of the benefits though is having them on campus.
Yeah.
So for those on-campus courses that you're offering, are they on your schedule or do they work from the college schedule?
They're on our schedule. So we have them, we meet with them every year or two. And it's been really great in terms of our we have a hybrid schedule. Our schedule is not a 6-period day. You could literally, we have certain classes that are 90 minutes, certain classes that are 43. So you could have a schedule that is 4 blocks, which is great. And you can have a schedule that might be 6, which you have a few blocks and a few what we call skinny classes. Every day at 7, 8, we have that open, and that's where they come in and we have open classrooms for them to attend.
Excellent. And Scott, being an early middle college high school, Scott Lefevre over at Meridian, yours is even unique in that. So talk to us about some of the benefits and opportunities or barriers that you've run into in this first year, knowing that your predecessor Tara has done a great job of setting up the systems and the programs to really thrive.
Sure. It's a system and a pipeline that we built and we're very proud of. Yes, similar benefits, right? Cost savings to students within your high school pipeline to help them get to college with reducing student debt. Success stories, we've had students graduate high school with associate's degrees. We reached a point a couple of years ago where 80% of our students were on pace to succeed and earn a college credit within 1 year of college or within 1 year of high school graduation, or on pace to earn a technical certification. We have a new problem in which we have students essentially opting out of our 5th year because they've already taken all of the prerequisite courses necessary for their 4-year degree. So they opt out and immediately enroll in a 4-year university, essentially as a sophomore, as Scott was alluding to. Some barriers, we do not host any of our college classes on site. They're exclusively done at Delta College or online. So we've set up a transportation network. We run a 7 o'clock bus every Monday through Thursday. We've had students in the surrounding districts join that as a way to offset the cost on that, in which we've become the transportation depot. But I guess I would say that the main barrier and something that you need to consider when joining this is that you're going to have to adequately staff it, and upper level leadership in the community need to be committed to that. I already said I have a full-time dean of student supports whose main job is to schedule and advise our juniors and seniors. We partner with the Michigan College Access Network for basically an additional on-site counselor who supports our seniors as they navigate the transition into college. And our district hires a part-time counselor. We call her our early college coach, in which she oversees and advises all of the students that are within the 5th year program. So they're really the three individuals that are keeping this program going. And it's absolutely critical that these students receive that level of support, because when it comes down to it, they're still kids. And for many of them, they don't have the parental support that others have access to, and they're so reliable on that academic advisor to keep them in line and to assure they're meeting, registration deadlines or purchasing books, all of those typical things that a college student needs to navigate. I'd add one more barrier, and it's something that we have, is just that you reach a point where, maybe 30-40% of your upperclassmen who are your high flyers, your outstanding students as far as academics and socially, well, they're not on your campus for half the day, right? And just changes the demographics of the day, in which, it creates a different school feel and a different atmosphere where you have for us particularly, our mornings are dominated by freshmen and sophomores, and the juniors and seniors kind of trickle in as they return from their off-campus placements as the day goes on.
Hey, Scott, as you're talking about this and kind of those different barriers, just out of curiosity, what's your free and reduced lunch percentage? Like, are you feeling like the opportunity that you're providing, for these students, that if the school wasn't really, helping with all of these resources and supports to get them this opportunity, do you think as many kids would be going on and getting that associate's degree?
Oh, I 100% believe that the number would be much lower if we weren't offering this level of support. Our free and reduced lunch rate it hovers around 40%. I can recall a personal story. When I first came out to Meridian, I just was appalled that we we essentially pulled all seniors out of classes in which they went into the cafeteria, and they were filling out a college application. And I remember sitting there being like, what the heck? I did that at home at my kitchen table. Why do they need that little support here? But then as over the years, I've been able to reflect, I did that at home, but I had two parents sitting by me, coaching me, advising me, helping me. And for many of the students here, they would not have taken that step without that level of support here at the high school.
I think that's an important part, because sometimes we get into, whether it's because of dual enrollment or online courses through a provider, where local educators say they're not our students anymore, right? Like, that's Michigan Virtual's responsibility. That's Edgenuity's responsibility. That's Delta College's responsibility. And what I've heard from all three of you is that your culture is, these are our kids. And so whether or not they're enrolled in dual enrollment or not, we're going to service them as our students. We're not putting them up for adoption or foster care to the other, that we're going to wrap around them. So talk about, if you would, some of the ways that you are supporting them. You talked about having a dean of students who is dedicated as a success coach there. I've heard about some parent nights and stuff, but what are some of the ways that you monitor, knowing that the colleges aren't giving you grades and progress reports the same way, although maybe Scott Kapla, with being in-house, you have a little bit different. But if you can talk about some of the ways that you navigate the separation of secondary, post-secondary with information sharing as while supporting our students, and how you do that.
One of the things that we put into place just a couple years ago, we worked with our staff to create what we called a study strategies for college course. So for students who are taking a dual enrollment course, and we encourage them to sign up for it, but it's not required. They can elect to take this additional class. It's taught by one of our instructors, and they help with revising papers. They help with communicating. They make sure that they're navigating whatever online portal if they're taking an online class. So that's taught on campus by one of our instructors, and that takes just one of their elective classes. But it's a great opportunity for our own staff to look at these students as they're still one of ours, but you might not have all of the skills of navigating the collegiate world just yet. So we can help you do that here on campus. And that's been really successful. About a third of our students sign up to take the study strategies class for college while they're dual enrolled.
Yeah, and so kind of to piggyback off of that, our counseling department has done a really great job over the last few years of meeting with students about their grade. Very rarely, and it's very tough to get the college counselors or the program managers to give us feedback as to where students are. I will say on a few, kind of back to some of the drawbacks, that some students were struggling and we didn't know about it until it was way past when it should have been addressed. So we've been working with our three dual enrollment, Wayne State, Macomb, and Baker, on that communication piece and being more proactive and having the counselors meet with them. And I was thinking as everybody was talking, about them being our kids, and it's absolutely true. And one of the things that I've had talks with is that over the years we've seen our AP numbers drop, and the reason our AP numbers drop is because our dual enrollment goes up, and it's really that they don't want to be over encumbered by so much stuff throughout their day, because yes, they still are kids. So we've seen some of those drop. And so when people go, well, what's wrong with your AP numbers? Well, take a look at our dual enrollment numbers. That's why. So the communication piece is really big. So if you're just starting to get into this, having a set plan as to how you're going to communicate with these colleges, wherever you're sending them, is essential for success.
Thank you. As we start to wrap up in the last couple of minutes here, one of the things that David Coleman at the College Board talks about, as I've interacted with him and listened to some of his conversations that have been posted online, has to do with this idea of broadening the invitation. So his is around AP. But if we were to take what you shared today from Scott, what you're doing in Lakeview around in-house, as you're looking at, Scott, what you're doing with the early middle college in Meridian, and in Howell, what you're doing with both online and off-site dual enrollment, what are some things that you might recommend principals and or counselors do to broaden the conversation, broaden the invitation, so that we have a more diverse population of students who are engaging in dual enrollment? And since you've been successful in growing numbers, I'm wondering if there's pieces that you might share with us as maybe a pearl of wisdom you might give us as a closing to today.
Yeah, I can start. Something that we've had to do is really look at our instructional model and how we prepare students. It's not something that we really talked about here, but having a really set entrance criteria for dual enrollment, but then looking at the course structures that you have in place for all students to ensure that they're receiving appropriate preparatory education in their freshman and sophomore year, so that they actually have the skills to take on a college class within their junior and senior year. And that's something that your staff has to fully invest and commit to, and say, if this is a desired state, if we're not going to really go down the path of AP coursework anymore, and we're going to grow our dual enrollment numbers, then we have to start preparing those students for college as soon as they come in as freshmen.
I think communication has been the key for us on two levels. One of them is just being real with the financial benefit, and in telling students and families, we know that college has been a barrier historically for a lot of families. We have about a 30% free and reduced lunch rate. So being very transparent with our families that this is an opportunity to get your students into the collegiate environment in an affordable way to do that. And then also recognize that they might not have a clue. I mean, I just have to be honest with myself. Our students, we want them to be future ready, but some of them are graduating and they still don't really know the path that they want to take. So becoming familiar with the Michigan Transfer Agreement and knowing that there's a body of classes that you can take, and it's not going to commit you to a specific degree, but we can get you into that collegiate environment while you're still learning your own skills and the career you want to pursue. So both the reinstate the financial benefits to families who might not think that they'll ever be able to afford to send their kids to school, and let them know that this is a great way to start looking at earning those basic college credits before declaring a major or a specific career path.
Yeah, and to Jason's point, having those conversations, we all know the best form of advertising is word of mouth, right? So students talk, they like this professor from Wayne State or this professor from Baker, and all of a sudden then you have this whole cadre of students looking to sign up. But what we do is a kind of a safety net or a threshold or a sifter, and we use NWEA and a lot of other different types of data tools to say, yes, you are ready. And some of them might not even think they are, but we try to push them that route to say, here are the benefits, and you are actually ready to do this. And if you stumble, we'll be here to catch you. But we want to be able to push you through to have a successful high school career and beginning of a college career.
Well, I could not be more thankful to have the three of you join us today, because I mean, really, you're like the perfect mix of different ways of accomplishing this. And I think it's great for people to see, large school, small school, medium-sized school, and then, having teachers on campus and just different ways of going about it. And I think, many of us, back in the day when I was still principal at Rochester High School and dual enrollment came out, we kind of wanted to put it on the last page of the course description book and not tell anybody about it. But clearly that has really changed. And, we fully understand as high schools, this awesome opportunity to provide kids with that step into the future and to make college both approachable and affordable. So I did drop in the chat information about the Michigan Achievement Scholarship. And this to me is kind of something that should go hand in hand as we're having these nights that we're talking, to parents about dual enrollment opportunities and thinking about, how do we increase the communication on this? We also need to increase the communication about the Michigan Achievement Scholarship because it's a new opportunity. And, looking at last year's FAFSA data, if those students had been applying for the Michigan Achievement Scholarship, 80% would have been eligible. So this is a high percentage of kids that are going to be eligible for this opportunity. And if we can get these students feeding forward, getting their foot in the door, getting these college credits now, and then getting that Michigan Achievement Scholarship to get them over the, finish line for that 4-year degree. So it's an exciting opportunity. And I really commend all of you for the work that you're doing and for your willingness to share with everyone else. So, if you have any documents or, like a letter that you send home to parents or a PowerPoint you use for a night that you have, if you have any other resources that you could share with everybody, we would love to have those from you and we can attach those in the follow-up email. So please feel free to send those to me if you happen to have anything else. Anyone have any closing comments? Jeff, did you have anything you wanted to add or that maybe you wanted to just make sure that we reiterate?
Stay tuned. This is one of a few coming from MASSP around this event in dual enrollment. So look to your emails because there'll be more to follow up on this one.
Great. Thanks for your partnership, Jeff. It's great to have the support of the department sharing this information. So I know everybody appreciates that as well. Colin, thank you so much for tracking everybody down and for moderating. Did you have any closing thoughts you wanted to add? All right. Thanks, everyone. We really appreciate all of you. We'll grab all this information and you'll be receiving a follow-up email. We did record this webinar, so you'll be getting that recording, and we'll also post it on the MASSP website. So if you have a friend or somebody that you're like, man, they should have heard this information, you'll be able to share that. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Have a great day.